Amazing, dude. How about you?
I'm feeling amazing too, man. I woke up this morning, and usually when you can wake up, that makes it for a good day. What do you think?
That's the best part of the day, man. Waking up. That's good.
Well, cool, man. It's 12 o'clock. I know that some people will definitely start trolling in, or let's not say troll, let's say rolling in. But as people start rolling in, if you don't mind, just tell everyone who you are, what you do, how you do it, and all that good jazz.
All right. I'm Tristan Ahumada. I've been in real estate since 2004. Out of college, graduated, went to law school, did real estate. I'm like, real estate just is making me more money. So, dropped out of law school, continued in real estate. Real estate tanked. I was like, holy cow. I shifted, went online instead. Google PPC, SEO, blogging, all that good stuff. And then realtor.com called me and said, hey, you want to buy leads? I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool. I bought a whole mess load of leads at the very beginning of buying leads and owned a whole county and a half, LA, Ventura County, massive counties, right? I did so well there. Realtor.com's like, hey, let's put you on camera. Just tell us what you're doing so we can help other agents make it fun and better. And so I did that. They loved it. They put me on stage at NAR, then traveled me around the whole United States, and I got to speak. From that, I created Lab Code Agents. Then I met Glenn Sanford in one of these, and I think it was a broker advisory board for Realtor.com. And Glenn's like, dude, I have this company. It's a very small company, 300 people.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go around the nation on an RV or like a bus type of thing. And
Yep.
I remember the conversation. We're sitting in Kirkland in Washington. And he's telling me, and I'm thinking, this guy's a little nuts. Like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Right. So Glenn's obviously a friend, but he's like, dude, I'm willing to give you 1 million shares of this company. And I'm like, it sounds cool, man, but I just don't see it. But let's stay friends. Right. And so we stayed friends. Right. We text back and forth, and see each other at different conferences. And then he became a billionaire. Right.
Yeah.
And then he bought Success Magazine. And then I'm like, hey, congrats. And then he's like, hey, you want to help me out? I'm like, sure, dude, I'll help you out. And so then I jumped into that world, and now you have me here. In between all of that, though, I've been able to consult Facebook, Instagram, a bunch of other billion-dollar companies in helping them grow communities, social media presence, business growth and development and leadership. And then in that whole process, I've been able to build multiple companies and still run real estate, and then now continue to help out Success and EXP. So that's it, Ruben.
That's awesome, man. I feel like there's a little bit more action sprinkled in between those timelines.
Yeah.
But did you ever pull out the calculator and look at just how much that would have been worth if you would have took the $1 million share deal?
I didn't have to. Glenn already did it for me.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he went, look at this,
Yes, he did. He said, Tristan, at the height of the stock.
Yeah, before the 2-to-1.
I'm like, dude, I don't want to know, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he rubs it in. He rubs it in every once in a while.
They say opportunity doesn't go away; it just goes to the next person, right?
That's it. So
I have a few questions. I was talking to a few, of course, of our people and just kind of around and wanted to get a few things from you. But yes, you do the coaching, consulting. Yes, you are the CMO of Success Magazine, and I believe you're one of the founders or co-founders of Lab Code Agents, and have 500,000 subscriber lists. Is that correct?
We do, man. Have a massive list that has allowed us to grow everything else. I mean, the key is in the list. I tell people, but they don't listen.
Yeah. One of the big things that we push is database as well. So what would you, so this is just a really quick, just side question. What would you tell the agent who is like, listen, don't need a list, don't need a database. I'm going to keep selling real estate. I'm going to be a billionaire. What do you tell that agent?
I said, it's a good starter plan until you get kicked in the mouth, right?
Yeah.
Or like Mike Tyson says, until you get punched in the face and you don't have a plan B.
Mhm.
Your plan B or plan C or plan D, whatever the plan is, always has to have the base of creating a list, no matter what business you're running, right? And it could be building a list through door knocking, it could be building a list through social media, it could be building a list through anything you want. The idea is that list becomes your database. Now, if Facebook dies, like MySpace, now I'm not saying Facebook's dying; they're actually growing, which is crazy.
Yeah.
No, they're about to hit 3 billion active users a month. That's ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
All right, so they're growing, but if they were to die, or Instagram or YouTube or whoever, you're not at the mercy of whatever is coming and going, right?
Right.
Now you have a list, a database of people that you're curating through the value that you're continuing to give, because now with whatever you're putting out, you're training your audience to either respond to it because it's valuable or respond to it because it's spam.
Mm,
So there's a whole process behind this list, how to curate it, how to help it grow, how to just psychologically tell people, hey, this is valuable, right?
right.
And a lot of us aren't wired that way, and just giving and giving and giving and expecting nothing back.
Yeah. It also allows you to move, and correct me if I'm wrong, it allows you to move into different sectors too. So you could be known and start growing on the real estate side, but if you wanted to
Yeah,
move into a different sector and you got core advocates, people who are fighting for you, you could move in a different space and they're still going to cheer for you, be there and support you.
that's so true, man. And I actually tested that, and it works.
Right, right,
I
right,
didn't realize that until I'm like, oh yeah, we did that. That's so true.
right.
Very true statement.
That's right. That's right. All right. So now, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've been with approximately three brokerages so far.
Yeah. C21, Keller Williams, and EXP.
Okay. Yeah, mine started at Coldwell was my first, but then same path.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So what do you tell an agent who no longer feels alignment or sees more opportunity with another brokerage, but is terrified to jump?
Yeah, well, the feeling of being terrified is normal. I have this conversation with everyone that's looking to jump, right? And it's fresh off of my experience, right? I just jumped over in October, first week of October, what, 5 months ago?
Right.
And I had been with KW for 14 years, and it was not easy, man. It was not easy at all. Here's the thing that we don't talk enough about. When you switch over, maybe for the next 2 to 3 months, or in some cases longer for some people, they're gonna feel the active feeling of, did I make a mistake?
Yep.
Right? Should I have stayed?
Yeah.
Damn, right? And that is normal. The thing that we have to normalize in change is that we've been so used to doing something for so long that the mind always wants to gravitate to what it's used to.
Yeah.
And it wants to push you away from new opportunities, because ingrained in our mammalian brain is safety,
Mhm.
right? We need to stick to the things that we know so we survive long term. And the thing about the world that we live in right now, it's actually the opposite. We need to continually challenge ourselves to be able to push forward and be in new situations to grow. And it kind of goes against what our body is telling us.
Right.
And so, Ruben, I just experienced this in October. I'm like, did I make a mistake? Like,
So, what do you do when you're in that? Because I was there too, but I'd like to see from your viewpoint. By the way, anybody who's watching, if you got a question, ask it, and we'll see if we can jump to it or get to it. But what do you do? Do you sit down and write down the reasons why? You go back to logic. What pulled you through those emotional states of did I
no,
do the right thing?
no, believe it or not, it's actually, this. Our emotions lead us to find the logical decisions we make to make those decisions.
Right.
Like, everything is emotion based for most people. I'm going to go through it. If I'm feeling like crap, then I'm going to look for the logical decisions to support that feeling. So
Right.
what I tend to do is I try to surround myself with people that can help me see through those emotional challenges, right? Thank God I have an amazing wife, because I had to go to my wife and I'm like, I'm just not, you know what? I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm done. And she's like, no, no, she to 20, 25 years, 26 years. So she's
Wow.
like, no,
Yes.
no. And then she knows. So she just lets me do my thing. But then what's the routine? What's the process that you go through to get you back into
Right.
your best self? For me, dude, it's a process. Like I know when I'm feeling like shit, I'm like, oh, there's that feeling. Why don't I go back to being in a better state before I decide on any decisions, right?
Mm,
And so, what's the
that's a good
buffer
point.
that we put in place before we make decisions? Because we know we're emotional beings. Like if we
Yeah.
get sad or angry, even if we look at the law in the United States, they have a heat of the moment, right? What's that passion? Is there intent behind the action? Right?
Right.
They
Oh,
even look
right.
at it, right? So if it's a heat of the moment, you're like, oh, you know what? It was a heat of the moment. Yeah, they killed that person, but it was a heat of the moment, right? So
Hmm.
lesser penalties. But if it was premeditated, there's a bigger penalty, right? So
Right.
same thing in functioning with yourself. Like take a look at this. What's the buffer you can put in place before you actually make a decision?
Right. And that spreads across your personal and your professional life. So I asked you the professional question, but really you've shown points that you could pull anywhere, anytime you're in that type of situation. Another question: what is the biggest takeaway from law school that you still apply today?
Okay, so sitting in law school, sitting in my first class, first year, I was sitting in contracts class, and I had a family law attorney who's amazing out here in LA. He sits everybody down and he's like, and I remember I didn't finish law school, but he said,
Right.
"Look to your right, look to your left." He's like, "You won't see the person on your right or to your left when you finish law school." He
Oh
goes,
man.
not everybody's going to make it through here. And I'm like, okay, interesting. That was one, because I think of the same thing in real estate, right? Look to your right, look to your left, same thing. And
Yeah.
then the second part is he would always tell us we're wordsmiths, right? As attorneys, we're wordsmiths, right? And I always brought that into real estate because I was doing both at the same time, starting both. And I was like, it's interesting because in real estate, how we speak to people depends on how they respond to us, right? The
Right.
energy we bring to the table or lack thereof or explanation, right? Everything starts with that confidence because people are like, I really like Ruben. You're thinking, I really like Ruben. He's competent, right? I think he can get the job done. And it all stems from that energy, but it all also stems from the words that we're using. And we don't think about that enough.
Yeah, that's so important. That's so important. And that's a great reminder, especially as the market starts to shift just a little bit, that these small little tweaks could be the thing that pushes you to your next closing or to your next listing appointment or whatever that may look like, your next opportunity. Great point. Here, who is a CMO you admire and learn from outside of success in EXPI World Holdings?
Yeah, outside of ours, I think I really like his name's Tony
Okay.
Rogers. He's a friend of mine. He is the CMO of the conglomerate of all of the jewelry stores that you and I know, like De Beers, Sales, all these little big jewelry
Yeah.
companies. He's the CMO of that
Oh wow.
conglomerate. And so he's always helping me out. And he's like, uh, look at this, because you and I come from more of an entrepreneurial background, self-employed, independent contractors. We don't come from the corporate world.
Right.
So I needed to tap on some people that understand that whole world that I jumped into. So that was one. And then people that I talked to in the past that have a similar CMO-ish role would be Seth Godin. You know Seth.
Hmm.
Seth Godin is great. I have a story on Seth where me and my friend at an event, I needed to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, dude, you want to come to the bathroom with me? So girls just don't do that. Guys do it too. I'm like, dude, you want to go to the bathroom with me? He's like, sure, I'll go to the bathroom. So we're going in, we come out, and then to our left, we see like this spread, the doors open, a spread of food, right? And I look at him, he looks at me, I'm like, yeah, I guess we'll go in, right? And then we went in, grabbed some food. I grabbed a croissant. He grabbed, I think it was like a jelly filled, one of those little good stuff. We turn around and then there's this bald guy in the corner on a little table, right? And then I go, is that Seth? Because he was supposed to speak at this event. And so I just walk up to Seth. Dude, it's a room with food and Seth. That's it. So I go up to,
just for you, sir.
I'm like, what the hell? So I go up to Seth and I'm like, hey. He's like, hey, you're here early. I'm like, yes, I am. I'm here early. I don't know to what. So we sit down and we talk to Seth for about 30 minutes. And then I guess it was a mastermind that we were part of, but we didn't know. We just came for the food. So this was a separate thing. The door just was open and we went in. We talked to Seth. He said, I asked him a whole bunch of questions. And I said, hey, man, I struggle with all the different opportunities that I have coming in. I feel like they're just way too much and I don't know how to handle them. He's like, it's not that you have a lot of opportunities, is that you haven't taken the time to put the right people in place for every opportunity. And ever since he told me that, I was like, oh, that's how you scale. So at every opportunity that I have, I bring in someone with me who can handle it as kind of like the chief operating officer of that specific opportunity.
Yeah.
If I don't, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I have well, actually we have a few, but one comes to mind, having challenges, growing her team. She's a rock star. What would you find, because we have our own system, but what do you find to be the best practice to identify talent to put in those positions to give you the opportunity to scale to more opportunity?
Yeah, I find that I usually start with character because I have to enjoy working with you because you're a nice person. You care about other people. That's always a challenge for me. Like I need to have a good environment for growth. I always think of a garden. It's like you look at a garden, where can things grow? Where the dirt is malleable, it's full of nutrition, right? And so in the same way, what type of person is coming into this? Someone who can come in and say, I've got it all, I know what I'm doing, has a bad attitude, or somebody who has a good attitude and says, no, I'm here to learn, but I can also apply and take action. And you won't know that often, but if you ask the right questions, scenarios, and do your digging on the background, you can easily see who the people are. But start with character, man. Always starts with character.
Yeah. I look at everybody and I see most people, I see the very best in them. And I'm like, oh, they're going to do great. They're going to crush it. And so what we've learned.
That is good. That is good. There has to be a buffer in between, man.
Yeah.
There has to be a buffer because I see the same thing. I see opportunity in everyone.
Right.
So because of that, I had to put somebody in place to be able to determine if this person belongs in our organization or not.
Yep. Exactly.
So I no longer make that decision because I suck at it.
Yeah. And we have a goal and actual put in place. Like what was their goal for that person and where are they actually at? Did they attempt? It's a little bit more of a system versus just leaning on the high I emotion that they're going to absolutely crush it and take this thing to the next level.
That's right.
What 3 things would you advise any agent should always take when meeting a client?
All right. Number 1, before they meet the client, right?
Yeah.
All right. So before they meet the client, I think you have to check yourself. Like how are you doing? Are you showing up today? I remember I was interviewing TD Jakes, Bishop TD Jakes and his daughter, Sarah Jakes Roberts. She said something to me that was really important. She's like, ahead of tomorrow's schedule, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, who am I meeting tomorrow? And am I showing up? Am I able to show up my best self for them? Because if I'm not, guess what? It's probably going to get canceled. And that's Ruben. That's not why I canceled you with the last time, by the way. That's
messed up.
That was just a miscommunication on my team's end.
Yep.
So you show up your best self because nobody wants 50% of you. Right? We try to get as close to 100% of you as possible. And if you can do that, right, with the right energy, then people will be attracted to you because this whole world revolves around whether or not people decide that they want to work with you based on what you're giving out.
Right.
It's not always what you're saying, right? It's secondary. Ruben, I already made my decisions on you based on your background, how you're talking, everything. Your shirt was amazing, by the way. I love your shirt.
Thank you,
Uh,
sir. We sell them. So hit the
dude,
link in the
yeah,
description. Okay.
like I get it. Like you're my people, dude. So I think we don't think enough about the energy we're bringing to the table. Like, what does that look like? That would be number one,
Mm,
hands down, by far. You need music, pump it up. You need affirmations, do them. Whatever you need, dude. Before we started, how'd you wake up today? Right, I woke up. I'm already grateful.
yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. So energy, number one, hands down. Number two, prepare so that you know who you're talking to. Like, who are they? Because a lot of the times we show up. There you go.
Weird.
That's funny. We show up, we don't even know who we're talking to. I've seen some agents make appointments by the halfway through. They're like, oh, there's another party involved here. Like, oh,
Oh man.
it's your brother too? Oh, damn. Right. Um, so yeah, be prepared, ask questions if you can, and show up prepared so that you know who you're talking to and who's involved in this
Mhm.
process. So that's number two, be prepared. Number three, I don't see a lot of people do this. Number three is what's the plan for after the meeting? Like,
Mhm.
Ruben, how are you and I going to get along after this? What's the follow-up plan? What's the nurture plan? Do I want to create a relationship with you after this? If so, what does it look like? And we
Right.
don't do that ahead of time. A lot
Wow.
of us just leave it. It's like, oh, yeah, great meeting, great meeting. I'll follow up with you tomorrow, today, right? You'll sign the contract, right? No, right?
Yeah.
What does the plan look like?
And all that's tied to confidence, right? Because if you had the energy, you were prepped and ready to go, and you had a follow-up plan afterwards on what that looked like, you're gonna go in more confident. You've almost visualized how this is gonna go before it goes. It's gotta build confidence in you.
Yeah, man. Agreed. Here's the number one reason that we worry, because I was doing some research over it over the weekend. We worry because we don't have action steps as to what we're going to do next, right? Like what's going to happen. Let's break that down, because taking these small actions or at least writing them down and knowing what you're going to do gives you a feeling of control over the situation, so you feel more comfortable,
Yeah.
right? So that would be a dude. Those three right there.
Yeah, Grant Cardone says something like this. I'm sure I'm gonna chop it up, but he says procrastination is built in the white space of your calendar, right? And like the just the feeling that I don't know what's going to happen today because you've allowed that white space in your calendar to not build in strategy to make sure you know what you're doing. We always say stand tall. We tell all our people to stand tall in the calendar, which is time, activity, location, and leverage. If you could put all that within that time block, it's going to build a lot of confidence. So I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. And go ahead. You were going to say
No, it's
something.
just because I don't know how
No,
much time you got. Go ahead. No, just go.
no, the other part to this is the energy. Going back to the energy, the thing that I was talking to Dan Martell, and I don't know if you watched our interview on success with Dan Martell, but he sold a few different companies for multi millions, and he said that one key piece to your daily life, your daily routine, work or personal, is that a lot of the things that you're doing, they're sucking your energy out. They're not things that energize you, that then propel you to do even more amazing things, right? Like the meeting we're having right now, I'm actually looking forward to it, right? I know at the end of this, I'm going to say that was fucking amazing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
made me feel good. Like it filled my cup, right? And so if you're not having a lot more of those meetings throughout the day or times in your calendar, then at the end of the day, you're going to feel like, what was my day like? Man, it was such a drag. And then at the end of the week, you're using the weekend to like re-energize. And it's like you half asleep and you're like, oh man, I feel like, and then you burn out 3 months later, 6 months later, and it goes back to what's on your calendar. So that's what, Ruben, that's what you reminded me of that.
I love that, man. I love that. I've had hard conversations with agents that the sales portion of the business doesn't bring them energy or going to get the business or putting themselves on camera or putting themselves out there. And hard conversations like, I don't know if you belong necessarily on the sales side, right? There is another side to this whole real estate. Actually, there's many
Yeah.
sides, But
There are.
aligning that with them and having them expose that to them, and super grateful afterwards. But in the beginning, it can be a difficult conversation, but important.
It is. Agreed.
All right, man. Do you have a favorite failure that you believe has set you up for success? Magazine.
Huh.
Well,
Yeah, I do.
take off the magazine, but the favorite failure.
Dude, hold on. Before I answer that, I was talking to a scientist on Friday for our podcast, for the Success Magazine podcast. Scientist out of Luxembourg. She does research on failure and a whole bunch of other things. And she said something that I'd never really thought of. And then I'll answer your question. She went back and she names her epic failures so that they become like a history lesson, like the Depression, like World War I, World War II. And I'm like, holy cow, that's brilliant, right? Because now it's a story that you can build on. And I never thought of naming my failure parts or growth parts or whatever, however you want to empower yourself with. And so this weekend I was thinking about that more because I just interviewed her on Friday.
Right.
And I was like, I'm going to name all of my little failures or watershed moments, right? Things that really propelled me to be who I am without obviously no planning. And I thought for a second, I was like, what was one of my biggest failures? And I thought it was that whole, I would say it's that whole incident at Inman. You guys can Google it if you're watching, where I was on a bus and I was with Nick Baldwin in the bus and with some other drunk guy. And it was just the three of us. And there were three women in the front. This guy was talking because he was drunk. He was mouthing off, talking about Tinder and cheating on his wife was cheating on him. It was like crazy drunk stuff, right? And so the ladies in the front 3 months later, at the same time that Trump was in a bus and that came out, they decided that it was me and Nick who was mouthing off, drunk, cheating on our wives. So they wrote a blog about it. Inman picked it up. Yeah, hold on. Inman picked it up, and we had 1 million views on that blog in less than a week. By the way, that's how we became famous in the real estate world. And I was thrown into this, and I was like, I read the article and I was like, man, this guy's terrible, whoever that is. And I threw it to the side. I posted it to Lab Coat Agents, knowing it was, I didn't even know. And somebody's like, man, that's talking about you guys. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Wow. And then from there, it propelled us into a whole different world because I was messaged, like bombarded. You should leave real estate, leave Lab Coat Agents, kill yourself. You suck. Dude, it was like, I was like, what just happened? Right. That was my introduction to fame. Dude, nonstop. And I was like, what do I do? So I immediately was like, I guess I just need to show up better, right? Because that wasn't me. That's definitely not me. So what I did is I had to call up all of our business partners. One of them was Facebook at the time. So I had to call up Facebook. I'm like, guys, before you see it, yeah. By the way, day one, when I saw it, I was like, at the end of the day, I was like, oh shit. Okay, Facebook, that was my first call. I was like, guys, you know me. You've been everywhere with me. This isn't me, right? And they're like, don't worry, we got your back. They said exact words, we see a lot of fake news. Don't worry. I was like, oh. I was like, that's awesome. This is 2016. 2016. I was like, oh, okay. And then call after call, Fidelity National Title, $1 billion company. I call the president of the nation for the company because they have all of these other conglomerates, companies. And I go, hey man, this came out. And his question was, did you do it? I'm like, hell no. He's like, I know you didn't do it. I was like, okay. So line after line after. The only one that decided to part ways with us but said, we believe you, we just don't want the heat, was realtor.com. And I was like, okay. Oh, wait, no, I take it back. Keller Williams fired me. I forgot to tell you that part. Keller Williams fired me and then rehired me after their attorneys did their digging. That was a really hard few months, man. That was tough on my family and me, because I didn't know, I didn't do anything, but I was accused of doing something. And
Yeah.
it was just nuts. And so I learned a lot from that to bring it here. And here's a few lessons, but the number one lesson is, when you put yourself out there, you have a massive target on your back, and people are going to talk shit that's not real. And you just got to keep going and showing up for the people that believe in you and know that you're there to help them out. That, I don't know if it could happen any other way, but that gave me thick skin. So people talk shit all the time. I'm like, yeah, that's good for you. But it came through suffering, let me tell you.
Yeah, it sounds like it, man. It also sounds like, they say with every obstacle, there's an opportunity. And it sounds like the opportunity part was that it did catapult you, at least get more eyeballs on you, get to understand you as a person a little bit more. People, for whatever reason, look at the news, is very attracted to negative, right? And that was the hook. But you were able to catch them in a bad, evil pond, and then flip them over to your pond that you have now, that is all about giving value and then being a positive person.
That's so true, man. That is very true. I think I turned that around so people could see who I really was, right? It's like, oh, that was, and now it's like, oh, that's fake. That's weird. How the fuck did that happen?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And understand it can happen to anybody. Just expose yourself to that.
Be careful who you sit next to in a bus.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, 100%. If your laptop could talk, what would it say?
It says, man, slow down on using ChatGPT.
Oh, we got a class on that. Plug. Be more training on March 1st. Allie, the agent I was just talking about, building her team, she's going to be running ChatGPT for our team and understanding it. What was the biggest takeaway you took out of that, since that's what your laptop's saying and we have a training on it?
For ChatGPT, I think we're not doing enough with it. I just, everything I throw at it, and there's just an unlimited amount of things that you can do with it. And I can tell you right now, everyone listening, you're just not using it enough. You're not being creative enough with it. You need to dig deeper.
Yeah. And knock on the door a few times. Let you, how much time do you have?
Dude, I can go for another 14 minutes with you around there.
I got 3 questions.
Dude.
It's perfect. What profession, this is an interesting one, what profession other than your own would be fun to attempt?
Profession other than my own, I would say being a professional author, like book after book after book after book after book after book after book. That'd be interesting to me.
Do you have a title for your next book? Okay.
What worries you masters you. That's the next title.
I'm writing a book very similar. No, I'm not going to run with that title.
Dude, that's my title, bro. That's
literally. You won't believe it. I'm not going to say. Here it is. Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's very cool. Okay. Have you ever thought about, and this is just side note, have you ever thought about children books? Because that's a very enlightening book for, it sounds like more of an adult. Have you ever thought about the other side of maybe a child's book?
Yeah. Not along the same route, but yeah, right. I'm trying to write a children's book with my kids about an old lady who goes around California and finds little treasures. It's called Little Mama. So we're almost done with it. So it's cute.
I don't want to know the plot twist, but I want to know what the symbolism behind the treasures are. This is just my curiosity.
I'll send you one if we ever publish it.
Perfect. Best song to test on a new. We're obviously coming to the end, so I'm just fun questions. Best song to test a new speaker system with. Tristan.
Ooh, damn, dude. Yeah. I think it's gonna have to be Backstreet Boys. I think I knew you were gonna laugh.
Okay. Okay.
I think Backstreet's Back. I think that one. It's a pretty good. It's
Not
a
a
pretty.
bad
It's a
choice.
pretty good beat. Not a bad choice. I mean, my other one could have been Eminem, right? I'm like, but we need more music.
Yeah, and there's a whole genre of people you need to introduce to Backstreet Boys, my friend. So
That's right, man.
everyone
Come
knows
on.
Eminem.
I just saw AJ at the coffee shop just 3 weeks ago, because he lives out here. So
Oh, does he?
yeah.
That's awesome, man. Last question before I tell you to tell everyone, where to find you and all that good stuff. Since I've been beating you up with questions, what question do you have for me?
Yeah. Did you get any heat from only real estate from the shirt? Really, what kind of heat did you get from that? Did people get angry at you? Did they laugh? Did they understand? What did that look like?
First, I was comfortable with myself. So before the heat came, so, I'll just say that. Yes, I had somebody that is a business person in my local community, and they reached out and they said, "Listen, no one's going to take you serious. Take it off. You're going to be looked at as a joke, the whole thing." And I messaged him back. This is just one example. I messaged him back. I said, "Listen, this is who I am, and I'm going to attract the people I want to work with anyways." And I think it's fun now that I interview and I talk with people at high caliber, people who have done some really cool things. And sometimes I wear the t-shirt, and it's
I
almost
love that t-shirt.
look what's going on, look, and it's another, just an example to the team. It's like, be very much the person you are. Now, I will say, if you're just not entering into real estate, I got a whole video on this. How should you dress in real estate? Because I kind of struggled with that in the beginning. And you have to bring some type of level of respect, obviously, in a new career. You're not sure really what you're doing, and you're still trying to find yourself.
Yeah.
There may be that level of, I'm going to be a little bit sharper as I go to these things, and depending on the event as well, and other circumstances. However, what you will find is that your results will speak for you more than the way that you dress, right? And I think at some level I'm at that point. So I wear a lot of the t-shirts that we wear is what we sell. So we do sell this one. We sell a few other t-shirts, and that's my little logo in the O. But I would say that's one of the biggest pieces of heat I've gotten. EXP has embraced me very well, and they use my headshot with this t-shirt on some of the stuff that I'm teaching. So
I love it, dude. I think it's awesome. I think most of our environment rewards us when we take risks, and I think we have to be prepared to shift quickly if the risk that we took isn't paying off like we envisioned. And we don't do that enough, because we call it, this is what we say: that didn't work. Oh, well, instead, hey, that didn't work. What can we tweak here? Because I still think the idea is a great one, so that we can make it work.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see how long this one lasts, but of course, just riding a coattail, because that whole thing blew up. So we're riding that, and it's always been a lead generation and a conversation starter, no matter where I go. People take a second look, so it starts a conversation, and that's kind of the point of this. So yeah, man,
I think it's awesome.
Well, I appreciate it. If I didn't wear this and it was just a plain shirt, you and I would be matching. So
That's right.
yeah. So if you don't mind, if you got anything lastly you want to say to everybody, because again, this is going to get passed around. Tell it, say it, throw it out there, and then tell everyone where they can find you if they already don't know where to find you.
Yeah. Find me at Tristan.Ahumada. It's my Instagram, and it's TRISTAN.AHUMADA. And that's me on Instagram. You can find me anywhere else. The last thing I'll leave you with is that at this point, the world's about to change. What are we in? February 20th?
Closing it up, but yeah.
World's about to change again for us, where if we look back, what are we, 2023? 2013, 2003, late 90s, mid 90s. The mid 90s, early mid 90s, we were introduced to the internet, and then the progression of what we can do with the internet. And then you had the .com, and then the .com burst, and then right after that you had the iPhone, and the iPhone gave us the ability to use apps. And then that's why Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube took off. That's the only reason. They had a platform to grow from there, and then they had a growth, and then things burst. MySpace died, Friendster died, but there are a few that stayed. Now we're in a transition again where we have AI. AI is just barely getting started, and we're going to have a growth, a massive growth for it, and a massive change in our business, another opportunity, another arm to do business with. We don't know how it'll look, but I need you to embrace it on a daily basis, because as it shifts, if you're paying attention, you can then use it for your business as it shifts. Now, I don't know which companies will end up staying, but there will be a few, and then a lot will die out. A ton will die out, but a few will stay. And at the end, when we're looking at it and looking back, these things will be an arm to our business. Like, we're going to use this for prospecting. What does this look like? Start thinking about that now.
Yeah, and if you dive in it now, that what you're going to learn, no matter what the platform is, you're going to go in with some type of knowledge and experience. So you'll already be ahead of the curve. And what's interesting is that as most people, at least what I've seen, and tell me if you've seen something different, when most people are walking away from some type of new form that disrupts, it's probably the opportunity you need to lean into and ignore what the masses are doing. And it's paid off for every time we've done that.
Very true, man. Very true. I think here's where we need to pay attention. So great point.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I appreciate you jumping on. Excited to pass this to everyone so they get a little bit of value of what you've delivered here today. And again, man, I do, man. I really much appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate being on.
Awesome, brother. Thanks, man. See ya.
Bye.